Jumping back now to Blockdaemon, we're really the gateway to Web3. We partner with about 400 institutions and traditional financial services companies globally, and we're able to provide them a safe, secure way to get on-chain, how to deal with nodes, blockchain access, infrastructure APIs, and recently we moved into the DeFi connectivity space.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the Hash It Over podcast presented to you by the Unchained Summit, which took place right here in Dubai back in April, and the second edition is happening in October right here in Dubai as well. If you want to know everything about the Unchained Summit, please go and check out the website unchainedsummit.com for all the information. Now, in this podcast, right, we dive deep with the minds really shaping the future of the blockchain, Web3, and crypto space. My name is Saif, by the way. I'm the host of the podcast, and I'm joined here by a true builder at the infrastructure layer of crypto, Andrew Vranjes, Chief Revenue Officer at Blockdaemon. Thank you for joining us on the show.
Thanks for having us. Pleasure to be here.
Now, you're no stranger to big powerhouses like Cisco, AWS, just to name a few. And today you're driving Blockdaemon's global growth from, helping institutions navigating through kind of staking node operations and everything under the hood of decentralized, I would say, networks. First things first, what I want to know personally, how did you get into this space? Because I'm sure you've come from a background that has nothing probably to do with blockchain, and now you're fully embracing it.
Yeah, thanks for the question. So, as you said, so from my background, I come at this from a technology infrastructure point of view. Many people in crypto come at it from different perspectives. A lot of financial folks are in the crypto industry. You get people like me on the technology side. You can get people that come at it, as something that they think about in terms of ecosystem, borderline kind of religious experiences, all of the above, right? So, but for me, I've been in tech my entire career. So, and I've been fortunate enough to see this sort of zigzag between centralized, decentralized, back to centralized, and so on and so forth through my career. So very early on, I worked on a lot of distributed systems. Effectively back then, that was Windows, Intel, a whole bunch of servers proliferating everywhere, right? And then, went on to work, in the telco industry, right? And you can argue, back then that was some of the very largest networks, and that was a very decentralized kind of system. If you think about cell phone towers and the way telcos operate, their infrastructure is just all over the place, right? And then I was fortunate enough, I joined Cisco, and that was just very large traditional IT systems. And then I went over to AWS, super centralized. And I, spent a lot of time thinking about this, and I was like, yeah, wow, technology just goes mainframe, client server, cloud. And then, I really think, the next wave is back to, back then it was, distributed, but let's call it decentralized systems. So, this is something I really wanted to do and come and explore the infrastructure side of blockchain. So, and Blockdaemon, look, we're a category leader in what we do on the infrastructure side of this. So, some stats on us, we secure over 110 billion worth of digital assets across about 400 institutional customers. We work across the largest crypto native, the largest digital native, the largest, traditional TradFi, companies across the globe. We're powering about 90% of, the top crypto custodians, about 60% of the liquidity providers, vast majority of the centralized exchanges. We're plugging in infrastructure and staking and what we've been speaking about, and what we do. So this was a really exciting opportunity. I think if I come back though, so I'd made the decision, I wanted to be in the blockchain space about 4 years ago. And, I fortunately had, quite a few friends in the industry as well. They're like, hey, you should come over. This is way more fun, way more interesting, so.
Next wave.
Yeah. So before I moved, I was spending quite a bit of time with a bunch of friends, looking at different projects and researching Ethereum and Bitcoin and, really immersing myself in what the technology can deliver, whether that's something from an emerging market play, financial inclusion, financial access. I was getting to see at my time at AWS, companies that were able to, offer people a much better way to remit money and pay for their bills with much lower fees. And there's many examples of those companies in Asia, emerging markets as well. I think on the other side, I was seeing a lot of cutting edge tech, coming out of the US, really around crypto, so very different kind of set of use cases. So for me, that was just something I really wanted to be part of. Really fortunate enough that I found Blockdaemon. I found our CEO, Constantine, met with our leadership team and had the opportunity to build out our APAC business. And recently I've moved to Dubai. I'm 3 months in. I came along to the Unchained Summit, had a speaking slot there, pretty fresh off the boat, a few months ago in Dubai, and, had a great time at the Unchained Summit and, glad to be here, right? But jumping back now to Blockdaemon, we're really the gateway to Web3 for institutions and traditional finance companies that are looking to, hey, how do they go on chain? How do they get on chain? How are they going to do that in a safe, secure, compliant manner, with a partner that understands their security compliance, security and compliance and regulatory requirements. So that's what we do at Blockdaemon. Like I was saying, we partner with about 400 institutions and traditional financial services companies globally, and we're able to provide them a safe, secure way to get on chain, how to deal with nodes, blockchain access, infrastructure APIs, staking. So we do, proof of stake, native token staking. And we're very fortunate enough to be in the MPC space. We acquired a company called CPO in 2022. So we've got industry leading MPC key management. And recently we moved into the DeFi connectivity space. We acquired an ex-employee's old head of sales, his DeFi connectivity company as well. So with our platform, we're really able to offer institutions access to all the tools and products and services they need to come on chain in a manner that an enterprise or an institution is used to. Yeah.
Okay. You've literally answered the first 3 questions I've had for you. So
great. Let's just knock it out of the ballpark. I know, right? I'm Australian.
Might as well just keep on. Now, I'm sure you've come across institutions showing interest to enter the crypto space, especially recently, right? There has been a lot of interest, especially from major international firms. What would you say is like a typical onboarding process from institutions into Blockdaemon? What is it like since you handle the international growth sector?
Yeah, so firstly, I'd say I can talk about patterns, right? And because institutions are in different regulatory environments and countries and geographies, some of these patterns are a little bit different. But I can give you some examples. Historically, one of the patterns we saw in the US was, look, for example, we work with, some of the largest banks globally. And some of them are on our cap table, Citibank, JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, etc. So if we take one of those sorts of patterns, and their customers as well, that, one pattern that it was quite common and is still common today is that they're in a learning and education mode, right? Now, these institutions have moved past that, but that's where they started. So what does that mean? They want a reliable, secure, compliant partner that can feed them data, on-chain data streams, so that they can start to research things like Ethereum and Bitcoin and start to get used to the data set. And that data set, they'll probably start plugging into internal systems, analytics, kind of, tooling, etc., and start to incorporate that into their internal workflows. That's quite a consistent pattern with the largest sort of TradFi companies globally. Then they'll get comfortable with like, hey, what's this on-chain data set? What's going on? What happens if we do a transaction? What does that look like? How do we monitor it?
Right.
How do we wrap some compliance around it? That's a very common starting pattern, on the TradFi side.
So there is an appetite for those institutions to actually learn about the industry rather than just entering because it's a hype. There's a lot of opportunities in the market out there. Like there is an actual appetite for people to learn and how this technology can be useful into our existing systems.
Definitely. And on the TradFi side, it's definitely, hey, we're going to enter this space. We're working out the details. Let's learn, what it means to be on chain. Are we going on Ethereum? Are we going on an L2? We're looking at other technologies. So that's how the largest of the large institutions will start, by wrapping their head around, what is the data set, that you're going to be pulling off chain, and how are you going to engage, and how is that going to interact with internal systems? Then you can work out, what products are you going to build as well. Yeah.
Now, one of the services that you guys as Blockdaemon offer to clients is making sure that they stay, compliant with all the rules and regulations in whatever jurisdiction they're located in. What would you say are like the technical and legal pain points that institutions most commonly face today in that domain?
Yeah, so I think it varies, right? So we've got things in Europe like MiCA, US is rapidly evolving and is really exciting for us. In Asia, you've got different regulations at a country level. You've got UAE, which is very forward-looking, right? Which is really exciting as well. So I think an institution needs to work out, how do they understand blockchain? What are they enabled to do, in their region from a regulatory perspective? Then what licenses do they have? Because then they may need to go and, work through that as well. And so, from our perspective, we've got a very strong legal compliance team. And, we're able to say, hey, we've worked with other institutions in a similar capacity before. We're able to provide some guiding and steering. And then we're always making sure that compliance and security is the very first thing we do. So whether this is international standards like ISO, things like SOC, more crypto native, domain-specific certifications like NORS, we're able to work with them and talk to them about these sort of certifications, and how that then can help them form the base of what they build on top. Because if you don't supply that to them, well, firstly, they probably can't use systems that don't have those certifications. Or they have to build it all themselves. And then for these institutions, that can be a really, really long time.
Yeah.
So, we help them accelerate time to market through providing compliance solutions, in this space as well. Again, blockchain access, staking, APIs, DeFi connectivity, and MPC key management and wallets as well. So, that gives us a lot of the building blocks for them to build whatever products and ultimate final solutions that they're looking to build as well.
Have you looked at the regulatory frame here in the UAE before coming in?
Yeah.
Maybe you're not the right person to ask, but...
Yeah, and so we're because we're on the tech side of this, right? We're not a financial services company, right? We're very much a technology provider, but the majority of the institutions that we supply to are those regulated entities. So we're kind of in this regulatory adjacent position, right? Because some of those requirements will then flow to us just because of the way it works.
Right.
So we don't come in and say, hey, we're an expert in every regulation. usually what we do,
Because rules keep changing.
they keep changing, but our role here is, we've done a lot of education sessions for regulators globally. They're like, hey, explain staking. And we're like, well, look, staking is a method of securing a blockchain. They're like, okay, well, I was thinking it was something to do with yield and APY. Like, no. Like
As an average user, that's what they would think. Yeah.
No, this is a method to secure a blockchain. So we'll talk to them about the technology elements here and the aspects and why have these mechanisms been built into blockchains as well. And we provide that technology kind of answer to that. And through those sessions that we've had with regulators, we get a feel for, regulators globally as well, right? And we've had we opened our entity in Abu Dhabi last year. We've had a fantastic engagement with ADGM, and we found them to be really focused on the technology, understanding the principles, and then how does that apply to regulated institutions underneath their umbrella. And so we think that's a great approach.
I've been hearing a lot of positive feedback about ADGM and the infrastructure that they've built for the space.
Yeah.
Really interesting.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of staking, let's look at it from a generic or a wider point of view. How do you think institutions are approaching staking as a revenue stream, and how has that changed over the last 12 months, in your opinion?
Yeah, so again, we look at that as staking is a method to secure a network, and, there is an incentive that happens because you're actively participating in an ecosystem. The ecosystem happens to be a specific blockchain. Because of your participation, that there is, a reward kind of generated as well. So I think, on our side, like I was saying, we're powering, a majority of exchanges, custodians, the wallet providers. A lot of these institutions have staking, built into their platform. The way we work is we've got APIs and middleware, and they kind of connect to us as well. And we help them with the technology side of this as well. These institutions are then on the regulated side, and they're dealing with things like, and they're usually dealing with retail, or other institutional customers as well. So we've seen, staking being a very broad concept and mean a lot of different things. And what we're seeing in the market now, I think, is it, moving into, hey, no, we're offering native token staking and being really clear that's a user initiated request directly towards the blockchain, right? And you can't guarantee any rewards. It's really up to the individual protocol on what the reward is, and they offer that. And then they may offer something in the DeFi space, which is a pure financial function, and that you need to be regulated for. So, we've been working with many forward-leading institutions that are really clear on what is the risk profile, what's got, humans in the middle, what's a financial function, what's a technology operation. So I think the market is maturing rapidly. And people using these services are really, their thinking and understanding is maturing rapidly. And it's really important that people understand, if they're participating, in the blockchain economy, like, how are they doing that? What function are they, enabling and participating in?
Based on what you're saying, I feel like a big chunk of your business is education.
Yeah, we do a lot of education. Yeah. We work with like the biggest names like, PayPal, Revolut, Stripe, B2C2, so you've got to, you take a lot of these folk on a journey and, make sure they're really crisp and they understand, what is on-chain access, what is native token staking. You see how we talk about it very specifically as well. And you help guide them, to an understanding that they can launch, successful products and services.
Where would you say most of your new clients come from? Are they crypto native or TradFi?
Yeah, it's a good question, but both at the same time, but different journeys. different, pathways. So a crypto native may come to us and want to start, DeFi connectivity, key management, staking, quite advanced topics in the first phase. Where, TradFi will come in and go, okay, we're going to follow a process here and we're going to onboard this, we're going to test it. So, we're seeing growth across the board from both of the cohorts you've mentioned, crypto native, digital native, and, traditional finance. But, what they're buying and that, engagement model with us is very different as well. So for example, at the moment, doing a ton of work with exchanges globally, and, they can be like, hey, Andrew, Blockdaemon, there's a new token launch.
Crypto exchanges or just exchanges?
Yeah, both. Exchanges, wallets, and they'll say, hey, a new token's launched. Hey, Blockdaemon, we know you support, 70 plus protocols. You've been involved in 50 plus Genesis events. Are you supporting this new protocol? We'll be like, yeah, it's coming out in a couple of days. Okay, let's go. Right. Okay. Where a TradFi will be like, okay, cool. No, we're probably in the Bitcoin, Ethereum, maybe a bit of Solana, stablecoin, L2 kind of world. Right. Yeah. So it's a very different engagement. Right. And because of the platform we've built and the services we offer, we're uniquely positioned to be able to service both of them. And so that's also what makes my role super exciting.
Right, yeah.
I can go have a conversation with some really fast moving, regulated, reputable crypto native folk. And then, the next kind of meeting, will be with a bank or a telco and, not that that's not exciting, but it's a different kind of motion, right? Yeah.
Okay, that's exciting. Yeah. Where do you see the blockchain infrastructure heading over the next 2 to 3 years? What are the opportunities that are out there in the blockchain industry from your perspective?
Yeah, it's a hard question to answer. I'll give you some themes. I can, talk about what Blockdaemon is busy working on. What we're seeing is, things like modular blockchains, and there's a whole raft of them in the market now and more hitting the market. We're seeing trends around, institutions thinking about, hey, look, I've tried a fully private chain, not completely ready for a public chain. Can you talk to me about technologies that I can settle on maybe an Ethereum, but I've got some privacy as well. So, we're working with a bunch of protocols on that front as well. So there's a lot happening, in that sort of permissioned L2 space that enables public chain settlement as well. We actually think that's a really fantastic solution for enterprises as well, that maybe don't want all their transactions all completely visible, right? But want some, selectable kind of privacy around some of their transactions, but ultimately understand the bulk of the innovation is happening on public chains. So they want to be on that open source public chain infrastructure as well. We are seeing, a lot of narratives at the moment really take hold. RWA is taking hold here in the UAE. There was a ton of announcements around token. It's really interesting.
I think I've seen something in the news 2 days ago.
Yeah.
I think over EMAR or something
and these are big real estate developers, right? That are like, let's tokenize some of my assets on chain. I think what we're seeing, so that's really exciting because it's the big players, right, that are doing this, right? What we're seeing, more probably on the US side, RWA, private credit markets, and there's some very big players, who are, for them, real world assets is private credits, the private credit market. I think what we're going to see more and more quite quickly as well, tokenized stocks, these things are coming. We saw one US exchange come out with a tokenized stock play. We can see a lot of opportunity for getting real world assets on chain, whether it's UAE, real estate, private credit, tokenized bonds, tokenized stocks. There's a lot of opportunity on that front as well. Yeah.
We were just talking about how the UAE is tapping into all of these, let's call them opportunities within the space. Where would you say, which country or which region is the leader when it comes to kind of infra development?
So it depends how you want me to answer the question, right?
Most technologically advanced, most forward thinkers.
Part of me wants to give you the answer on all this works because of blockchain engineers, blockchain developers, right?
Primarily.
So, when you think about building of chains, historically you've had a lot of talent kind of in the US, maybe, pseudonym kind of, we don't know who it is, you've got a lot of talent in Europe. I think in terms of countries, though, that are actually pursuing, utilization, deployment, and actually putting things on chain, right? You see a lot of movement here in this market as well, right? Before moving to Dubai, I spent 15 years in Singapore. The big hubs in Asia, Hong Kong, Japan, Korea, Singapore, also very big blockchain kind of ecosystems as well. I do think at the moment, momentum-wise, we're seeing a lot of momentum around UAE and also specifically around New York. New York for what's happening in the US, but also what New York offers is a crypto hub, but plumbing and access to financial services and, the adjacent kind of, services and technologies you need to move these markets and go on chain as well. So I'm really excited about things that are happening specifically New York, UAE, but I think from a Blockdaemon perspective, what's happening in Europe around Mica is really interesting. London continues to be a hub. Asia is very big on the retail side of crypto as well. So there's a lot happening globally as well. I think each country regulatory environment is pursuing slightly different things, which makes the whole industry really exciting.
How do you see these regulation divergences across the world, especially since you guys do operate globally? You have clients from all over the world. How do you see it affecting the infrastructure providers such as yourselves?
Again, so we're a technology company, right? But like I was saying, we sell to largely regulated kind of institutions. So they will have different requirements based on the regulatory environment that they reside in. I can give you one example at the moment, right, where where we are working with a lot of the Bitcoin staking kind of community. We've got several customers that are really excited about the market opportunity in Bitcoin staking. They can do Bitcoin staking. They can't receive the native token back, right? So they're looking for solutions that offer Bitcoin staking, but actually, the reward generated from securing the network actually comes back in Bitcoin. So that's one example that, because, they reside in markets where the tokens are, approved by a central regulator. So that's one example as well. I think another example as well we see a lot is, many institutions can work on blockchain projects, but they have to store a lot of data. So we supply a lot of blockchain index data. So we'll index all the on-chain transactions and then we'll feed it back to them so that they can make sure at any point in time they can go, yeah, cool, we were participating, this is what we're doing, maybe we've got some custody, we're holding some assets for our clients, and we've got complete visibility of all the transactions going back a period of time so that they feel they're compliant, and covered in terms of all the transactions have been, they've got access to the transactions in a format that works for them in their internal systems as well. So there's all these different examples around, what constitutes, the right way to launch a blockchain digital asset product for different markets.
Where would you say is the next kind of $1 billion idea or opportunity is going to likely come from in the infrastructure blockchain space?
Yeah, so I think look, there's numerous $1 billion dollar ideas.
Enlighten us.
You've just seen a couple of acquisitions happen this week. I think there's a lot to be done, at the user interface layer here, right? Wallets that are really easy for institutions to use, that are intuitive, that meet their security and compliance kind of requirements, even going further, have the ability to plug things in that make it easy to do their tax, etc. I think there's a lot that's going to happen on the usability front for institutions. I think if you look at all that infrastructure, the retail side is kind of nice and fairly usable.
Yeah.
I think a lot of that usability is going to move into the institutional side where we are as well. So I think there's a lot on that sort of trend line that's going to happen. Definitely 100% a lot on the RWA side for institutions.
For sure.
That's just going to go unabated. It has an extremely large run ahead of it. We're seeing stablecoin adoption, variety of use cases as well. Again, you're back to how do you store, send, transact. This sort of infrastructure around stablecoins is very early as well. We're starting to see, the convergence of, AI and intent-based systems into wallets as well, right? Hey, great podcast. Maybe I want to buy this mug. I want to send you some money. Like, why can't I have a natural language conversation with my wallet, right? And make a payment and these sorts of things. So I think we will start to see many very practical kind of AI, interlocks, on the blockchain side that are going to come as well. Look, we could spend the whole podcast just talking about different use cases that are coming down the line here. And then, there's a lot to take financial services. So we have financial services, right? And financial services have gone online. Now financial services are going to go on chain. So, concepts around, internet capital markets, like how do we have the speed and the throughput and latency reduction to take more and more financial services online for institutions is $1 trillion plus opportunity, let alone billion, right? So there's so many things that we're seeing, our customers and our partners go after. Being at that infrastructure layer, we just get to see so many different use cases.
I'm sure,
That's what's so fun about this role.
Cool. So we spoke about, your early days in the space, what got you into the blockchain industry. We spoke about Blockdaemon, spoke about a lot of different kind of regulations, staking, et cetera, et cetera. We've done all the serious, questions. Now we're going to move on into the fun bit stuff, right? Rapid fire questions.
Okay.
1 or 2 word answer and you're good. Discord or Telegram?
Telegram. A lot of our engineers, and I know 2 words, are in Discord. Like my life is all, Telegram. Yeah.
Okay. What chain are you secretly bullish on?
Good question. Blockdaemon, we love all our chains we support. We love all our partners. I think at the moment on the messaging side, Solana, internet capital markets, I really like that narrative. And I like some of the very specialized RWA chains at the moment that are coming out.
First thing you do after a hack hits your protocol?
Well, so, like I said, security and compliance is the very first thing we do. So we don't get to that stage. We have a fantastic team. Our head of security is ex-BlackRock. My security team is constantly kind of reminding me of all this stuff. And, that's a really important requirement. So, yeah.
You haven't been there yet.
No.
And I hope you will never.
Yeah, thank you.
What was your... Okay, now I get the whole Web3 space, the whole blockchain industry.
I think one of the pivotal moments for me was Ethereum, the merge, proof of work to proof of stake.
Okay.
Yeah.
And lastly, I think we spoke about this. Which country is winning in Web3 adoption?
I think the momentum is, like I was saying, and I answered this, a lot of momentum in the US, a lot of momentum here, UAE, a lot of momentum in Asia. And we're starting to see a lot of that come back now with clear frameworks in Europe as well. Yeah.
Okay. So I've got two more segments. And since we are running short in time, you have to choose one.
Okay.
Are you going to go with the mint it or burn it, or would you rather?
Let's go mint burn.
Okay. So minted, that means that you love it. Of course, burn, that you absolutely hate it.
Okay.
VCs launching meme coins.
Not my thing.
Okay. Staking rewards that feel like printing money.
As long as it's native token proof of stake.
Okay. Telegram as a growth hack.
There's a lot to be done on Telegram. I would love to see, and if anyone wants to reach out with B2B, institutional tools for Telegram, I'd love to have a conversation with
A lot of people misuse it, but
Yeah.
it's a great tool.
Yeah.
Celebrity crypto advisors.
Yeah, that's not a good thing.
Yeah. Airdrop hunters.
Each to their own.
Okay. Gasless wallets.
Yeah, I think in the fullness of time, this is important.
Okay.
You get to bring more institutions on chain.
Okay. Is this a topic that gets kind of discussed? Okay. Rebranded 2007 projects making a comeback.
I think that's an obvious answer.
All right. AI Web3 crossovers.
Yeah, I think, like I was saying, where there's a really important and critical and logical use case, I think there's a lot of opportunity. Like, why can't we just talk to our wallet and execute? Yeah.
Why not? And lastly, layer 3 is already becoming a thing.
We're getting there.
Well, thank you very much, Andrew Vranjes, Chief Revenue Officer at Blockdaemon. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And thank you
It's
for
been fun.
Yeah, it's been really good. And thank you for coming into the Unchained Summit. And I hope to see you in the next one. It's happening in October right here in Dubai again. And I guess later on this year, there's one in Mumbai. But just watch out our space, Unchained Summit. We're all over social media. If you want to check out any of the previous podcasts as well, with some great minds in the industry, it's all out on YouTube right now on our channel at the Unchained Summit. Andrew, thank you once again.
Thank you.
And we hope to see you soon.
See you soon.